This story is just fiction. No women were hurt during the making of this story. They thought they were buying luxury, but what they carried home was death, stitched in crimson. When the luxury brand Maison DeVry unveiled its Crimson Elegance limited edition bag, the fashion world erupted into chaos. Only 50 would ever exist, and each one carried a price tag so outrageous that owning it was considered a symbol of ultimate power and prestige. Outside the flagship boutiques in Paris, New York, and Tokyo, lines formed days before the release. Socialites wrapped in fur coats camped beside college students who had emptied their savings just for a chance to buy one. Security footage later leaked online, showing women clawing at glass doors, shrieking as though their lives depended on it. The launch day descended into frenzy. Customers tore hair, scratched faces, and bit through fabric gloves, leaving behind bruises and blood. Police had to intervene at several locations, but the hysteria was unstoppable. Videos circulated across TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Women fainting in the crowd, others screaming when their purchase slipped from their grip. The world had never seen such madness over a single accessory. Yet no one stopped to question why the brand refused interviews, or why the creative director never revealed what made this bag so different. The advertisements only repeated the same cryptic line. Beauty stitched in permanence. A bag that will live with you. The first woman to showcase the bag online was Celeste Marot, a glamorous influencer with millions of followers. Known for her radiant smile and perfect life, Celeste proudly filmed the unboxing. Her voice sparkled with excitement as she peeled back the crimson tissue paper, revealing the deep red leather that shimmered under her ring light. "It feels alive," she laughed, stroking the bag's surface. "Like it's breathing." Her fans flooded the comments with envy, begging to touch, to see, to own. But within days, her tone began to shift. Late at night, Celeste posted strange tweets. "Why is it whispering at night? Do you hear something when you touch it? I can't sleep with it in the room anymore." Her followers assumed it was a marketing stunt, some spooky, mysterious campaign to drum up even more hype. But her next video silenced them. Shaky and grainy, filmed on her phone at 3 a.m., it showed Celeste sitting on the edge of her bed, makeup smeared, her breath shallow. Her eyes kept darting to the corner of the room, where the bag sat perched on a chair. "It's moving," she whispered, clutching the blanket to her chest. "I swear to God it's moving on its own." The screen went black. By morning, Celeste Marot was gone. Her apartment door was locked from the inside. The only thing found on her bed was the Crimson Elegance bag, looking untouched, gleaming as though it had just been unwrapped. The Crimson Elegance wasn't just a bag anymore, it became a test of pride. Owners flaunted them at galas, red carpets, and boardrooms. But in private, the stories began to unravel. The whispers didn't start online. They started in hushed conversations, in texts sent at 2 a.m. In voice messages women were too afraid to replay. "I hear scratching from the closet," one heiress confided to her friend. "Like something's trapped inside, and trying to get out." Another whispered that the bag always felt warm, as though it had been resting against a living body, pulsing faintly beneath her fingertips. Sometimes, a celebrity admitted in a drunken live stream before quickly deleting it, "I swear it's breathing. I leave it in one room, and when I come back, it's closer. Like it followed me." One woman in New York claimed she woke to find the bag dangling above her face, the strap wound so tightly around her wrist that her skin turned purple. Another swore she heard muffled screams from deep inside the leather, like someone gagged and buried alive. But even with the mounting terror, none of them returned it. Because to return the bag was to admit weakness. To lose it was to lose status. And no one wanted to be the woman who gave up the most exclusive treasure in the world. They endured the paranoia, clinging to their cursed trophies, even as their nights grew longer, their homes colder, and their reflections in the mirror less and less familiar. The dam finally broke when Eliza Reigns, a respected fashion editor, posted on an anonymous forum. Known for her poise and sharp critiques, Eliza was the last woman anyone expected to falter. Her message was long, frantic, written in trembling sentences that barely held together. She described how no matter how much she perfumed her bag, the faint metallic scent of iron and decay always returned, like rust, or blood left too long in the air. At night, she swore she heard weeping, soft and broken, coming from the bag if she pressed her ear against it. Sometimes, there were whispers. Not in English, not in any language she recognized. They were low, desperate, pleading. She wrote that she tried recording them, but the moment she hit play, all she heard was her own heartbeat thundering back at her. Her paranoia grew. She confessed she hadn't slept in days because the bag would move if she closed her eyes. Once, she locked it in a trunk, only to wake up and find it placed gently on her pillow. Her final words chilled every reader who stumbled onto the post. "I touched the lining and I swear, it felt like skin. Warm. Stretching. And it twitched under my hand." The forum exploded. Some dismissed it as fiction, but other owners of the Crimson Elegance, replied with trembling honesty. "I thought I was the only one. Mine cries too. I can't get rid of it. I tried. It came back." The secret was out. And once spoken aloud, the unease spread like a plague. The turning point came when an independent journalist, Daniel Veyrac, began to investigate the mysterious rise of Maison de Vraille. Unlike glossy fashion reporters, Daniel wasn't interested in couture or celebrity endorsements. He wanted to know why a brand with such little history had suddenly skyrocketed to global obsession. His digging took him beyond fashion magazines and press releases, into archived export records and quietly erased government reports. What he found was chilling. The Crimson Elegance bags were all manufactured in a remote workshop on the outskirts of Bratislava, a small, impoverished town in Eastern Europe. The workshop had been shut down abruptly months before the launch. Official statements claimed industrial accidents had forced its closure. But the numbers didn't add up. Dozens of women who had worked there, seamstresses, cutters, dyers, had simply vanished. Their families never received bodies. No funerals were held. Their names were never mentioned in any official document again. Locals whispered darker stories. They said the women were locked inside the workshop, forced to sew day and night. Some collapsed from exhaustion. Others grew sick from the dyes and chemicals that coated their lungs. When they died, their remains weren't removed. Instead, they were used. Daniel bribed a former night guard who finally broke his silence. The men swore he saw crates being hauled out of the workshop at midnight, crates that reeked of rot. Inside, not fabric, but flesh. Human flesh, stretched and dried. And then the final piece clicked. The crimson leather that gleamed so strangely in the light, that felt warm beneath the touch, that carried the faint scent of iron and decay. It wasn't animal hide. It wasn't leather at all. The Crimson Elegance bags were stitched together from the workers themselves. Every bag carried a piece of the women who had bled, cried, and died for the brand. That was why only 50 existed. Because there had only been 50 bodies. Once the story spread online, fear turned to hysteria. Bag owners were suddenly pariahs, whispered about in public, blamed for carrying death on their shoulders. Many tried to rid themselves of the cursed accessory. But the bags refused to leave. One woman tossed hers into the river, only to wake up with it dripping wet at the foot of her bed. Another buried it deep in the forest, but found it hanging from her front door the next morning. Some who sold theirs swore the buyers never existed, that the money vanished, and the bags simply returned, sitting patiently where they slept. Those who tried to destroy them fared worse. One socialite set hers on fire. The flames licked at the crimson surface but snuffed out as though swallowed whole, leaving the bag gleaming as if untouched. Another took a knife to the lining and watched in horror as blood welled up from the cut, staining her carpet. She swore she heard screaming, dozens of voices crying in unison, before she blacked out. Soon after, disappearances began. Just like Celeste Marot, the influencer who vanished first, bag owners were found missing from locked apartments, untouched hotel rooms, and gated estates. Doors were bolted from the inside, alarms still armed. The only thing always left behind was the Crimson Elegance bag, sitting neatly on a table, perched on a chair, or placed directly on the bed. The police dismissed the stories, but whispers circulated online, the women weren't vanishing at all. They were being taken back, absorbed into the bags themselves, joining the chorus of muffled cries that could still be heard if you pressed your ear against the leather. By the time Daniel published his exposé, it was already too late. Dozens of owners were gone, and the bags remained. As pristine as the day they were sold. As if waiting for new hands to claim them. Months passed, and the frenzy had quieted. The headlines faded. The disappearances were left unsolved. Most people convinced themselves it had all been a scandal blown out of proportion, a hoax that spiraled too far. But in the shadows of the internet, on a hidden corner of the dark web, a new listing appeared. Crimson Elegance bag, authentic. Mint condition. The photograph showed one of the bags, gleaming under dim light. The leather looked impossibly fresh, its crimson sheen almost wet. The starting price, $1. Beneath the description was a warning, written in bold red letters. Once purchased, it cannot be returned. It will always find its way back. For a moment, the listing sat in silence. Then the bids began to climb. Dozens. Hundreds. Thousands. Names and numbers flashing in frantic competition. Some bidders weren't collectors or fashion enthusiasts at all, they were ordinary people, lured by the promise of owning something forbidden. Others were obsessed fans of the vanished influencers, desperate to hold what their idols had once carried. And still more were simply greedy, knowing they could resell such a rare item for millions. The bag didn't care. Hours later, when the auction ended, the winner celebrated in a private chat room. They bragged about the bargain they had scored, posted screenshots of the confirmation email, laughed at the others who had lost. But when the courier arrived, there was no package. No receipt. Only the bag. Sitting on the winner's doorstep. Gleaming as though it had been waiting for them all along. And though they hadn't touched it yet, they swore they could already hear it. Breathing. Whispering. Calling them by name. Because no matter the curse, there are always those who will kill for luxury.